What's up, guys? With a much shorter response time between these two videos than my last two two videos, I bring you my next book review, The Blood of Olympus, which I read on my Nook because it was purchased before I went back to physical books because I realized I prefer them. Still like this, but definitely prefer them. Though I can read these at night much easier than you can those because it glows or permits light, whatever you want to say. But The Blood of Olympus, which is the fifth book in the Heroes of Olympus saga, which is the second series in the Camp Half-Blood trilogy, because they have the Percy Jackson series, this series, now there's the Trials of Apollo series, which I think is like here-ish. One of these two is the first book in that, which I'll eventually get to. But this is the final book in the Heroes of Olympus, which kind of mixes Greek mythology with Roman mythology, which are similar, but they kind of explain why they're different. History with this, I loved the Percy Jackson books. I got into those in middle school and loved it right up until the end. I'm a big Greek mythology person, so really enjoyed this series. Second series I also enjoyed, though not as much. It mixes in Roman aspects. And I read each of those books probably a week upon release up until the second to last one, The House of Hades, which I read sometime last year. Really loved that one because it focused a lot on Percy Jackson, who was the main character in the Percy Jackson series. And I was going to read this one right after that, but then I learned that Percy wasn't a point of view character in this one, which I thought kind of irked me a little bit as someone who was a fan of this character. And it's like, you should have still kept him as a big character, though he still is heavily involved. Like, I would have liked to see, especially a certain scene from his point of view, because the fans, I feel, deserve it. Sorry, entitlement of me, but I don't know. I felt like that he should have, Rick Riordan, who does great in all of his series involving mythology, should have had the main characters, especially Annabeth and Percy, have a point of view, one or two, and it would have made sense, I feel, especially in some scenes that I'll get to later, to have them in this as a point of view character, because his style, if you haven't read any of his book before, is he'll do probably 2 to 4 chapters from one person's point of view, then switch to another person's point of view, so on and so forth, wrapping back around. Normally, like the first book in the series, I think only had 3 point of view characters. This one had those first 3, which I get why I would have those, because it was like, hey, remember this is about this series, so let's have these 3 characters, Jason, Piper, Leo, and then sprinkle in a couple of the other characters that were involved, like, oh man, last night, Nico, who I feel finally got the they used Nico very well in this book. That's all I can say. So overall, like during the first half of the book, I kind of just wasn't feeling it. It felt too much was happening in too small an amount of time, which makes sense because like the final battle. But this book in the first half kind of felt like it was the final battle every 5 minutes. It was like, right now these characters have a final battle. Now these characters have a final battle, and everything's like, oh, end of the world, death-defying thing, which makes sense as the 11th book, if you're counting all the Percy Jackson books in this, and just the 5th book in the series, and dealing with gods and giants and monsters. It makes sense for all this to be happening. It just, it felt like there wasn't as much weight to it as there should have been, because all of this just kept happening at such a fast pace. There wasn't any time for new character growth during the first half, which I feel is juxtaposed completely by the second half of the book, which is all about weight and all about sacrifice and all about, it puts all the other epic battles, which there really were some epic battles. At one point, the Nico character pulls all the bones of the, he's a son of Hades, pulls all the bones out of the ground and just traps all the enemies that were attacking him. All these bones they pulled out that happened from a British massacre where they massacred a bunch of the revolutionaries in what was supposed to be a treaty, and then they betrayed them all and pulled all the bones of, just stops what was going on. I thought it was really cool seeing that happen. No, it was the French people who got burned. It was the bones. Mixing up the mass battles, like I said, too many. And the battles at the end kind of put that to shame. There's especially 2 battles, which one of them has such epic payoff where the gods finally unite with all of their children, which is the scene that I think should have had Percy point of view, because I really wanted to see what Percy felt when he's fighting along Poseidon, because that just that would have been such a cool payoff that irks me to get. But overall, the battle was still cool. I mean, you get to see Jason fight alongside Zeus, who's like, well, Zeus is more powerful, cool, but yeah, but just I have so much more vested in Percy than Jason. Still like Jason, but more vested in Percy. And that was just such an epic battle that's all over, where the gods unite with them to take down the giants. And there's a second big battle scene where all of the Greeks and Romans have to fight land itself and a bunch of monsters, which is also very cool. Probably should reverse those, because the one was more epic, but the other one had more sacrifice. So, yeah, second half, much more about sacrifice, much more weight to it, and it also gives us finally resolution for some of these characters. With Percy and Annabeth especially, you kind of see where they're going. Another downside for the whole series in general is that we don't get a lot of Grover, who was one of the main characters of the Percy Jackson series. Just could have had a bit more Grover. Just saying. But at the end, all the characters get some sort of payoff. And unlike the Percy Jackson series, which immediately ended with a new prophecy, where it's like, oh, we're definitely getting more, and even though I know that there is more with the Trials of Apollo, this one kind of ends in a way that's more satisfying than the what's the name of the last book in Percy Jackson series? Last Olympian, maybe. Battle Lab, no, it's after Labyrinth. I can't remember, but more satisfying than the end of that series. So it's really weird. With the first half, I just wasn't feeling it. In the second half, I really felt it, and I really enjoyed him finally giving Rick Riordan giving payoff for all these characters, which I think a main problem in the first half novel also is they has to juggle all these characters. In the series before this book, it was always, all right, some of the characters aren't involved, so we'll follow these 4 out of the, I think there was 9 main characters in this one, if you want to think about it. Percy, Annabeth, Piper, Leo, Jason, Frank, Hazel, Nico, and the other Roman leader person whose name starts with an R and I can't ever remember or even know how to pronounce. But yeah, about 9 main characters, so you have to follow 9 main characters, where the one before this, which I thought also had about as many main characters, but because it was so easily divided into, alright, Percy and Annabeth's story, since they were in Tartarus at the time, and everyone else's story. I think it did a better job, and also because you got the point of view from Percy and all them. And this one, it's kind of felt weird in these scenes where you didn't have Percy or Annabeth, who also should have had a couple point of view characters in different points. Can't really pinpoint. That was more in the first half, where I thought it was kind of awkward that, hey, you should have had a scene there. But yeah, Percy definitely should have had a couple scenes here that would have made more sense to have a point of view. My biggest flaw with this book. But when you're juggling this many characters and you're still able to give them all satisfying endings at the end, when you are able to deliver that epic battle, which even though you had so many other battles that took away from weight in the first half, to being able to bring all that weight back at the end, all the strings tying together, all the endings that need to happen, and learning new things about characters in the second half, where in the first half, really, like I said, not a lot of character growth. To have all that character growth come in the second half, this still wound up being a good book. Not great. That first half, just, it's not that it was bad, it's just I didn't care, because everything was just happening, and it just continued to happen. It was like, all right, now you're fighting for your lives, and now you're still fighting for your lives, and it's like, all right, that's it. That's a Greek story, but what's good about this series was bringing modern senses to the stories of Greek times, and bringing other modern things into this, and to just basically tell a Greek story is cool, but I've already read a lot of Greek stories. I already enjoy all those, so I didn't need another one of those. I wanted a new Rick Riordan story, which he delivered on in the second half. So for that, I'm still going to have to give this a 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed it, and I will read the there's a new Norse mythology one that he's written, which is also connected to this. It's actually Annabeth's cousin, so I plan to read that at some point. Probably this year. That's going to be one of the 52 books. And also the Trials of Apollo, which is a direct continuation to this one because, well, because that book, just to say, Apollo gets punished by Zeus for this. So there's new stuff going on with him. So I'll like to see what's going on with that. But unlike when I finished Percy Jackson, I was immediately ready for the next book in the series. This time, I'm fine spacing out because I think it had an ending where Percy Jackson, not really. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoy these book reviews. Hope you enjoy reading because reading's good. So go read a book. Do it right now. Stop watching this. Pick up a book, whatever book you've been putting off. Maybe you've been putting one off, and read it, front to back. And then over again. Just because you probably haven't read in a while. Unless you have, then you can just read it once. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time. Hand on camera.